to the wisdom flow. Revenue ramp, let's go, let's go.
Welcome everybody to the RevRag AI podcast series. I'm your host for today's session, Arushi, and today we are joined by Usman Hafiz. So Usman takes care of product, specifically AI implementation at FPL Technologies, which is the team behind One Guard and One Score. Super glad to have you today, Usman. Thanks for joining it.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Usman, let's jump right in. I want to understand from you what AI implementation actually looks like. So a lot of companies, a lot of B2B companies are still exploring how to start with AI, be it on the customer experience front or increasing the efficiency of their internal teams. So I want to understand, how do you identify whether there's an opportunity where AI can be used, what triggers that journey, and whether it would be a customer experience need or an internal team's need.
Sure. So I believe now it is no more a question of if we should do it, but how we should actually do it because AI is going to be the next industrial revolution and we have to get onboarded ASAP. The biggest challenge that lies ahead of us right now is related to hallucinations and unreliability of applications in certain cases. So the way to deal with that is to choose your use cases very wisely and your implementation very mindful. uh, in which the approach that we took was to identify use cases that are low criticality and assistive use cases. So, by low criticality, I mean as in the AI should not be allowed to take decisions that would have negative consequences if it is, taken through some hallucinations or not grounded in truth. So that's why the low criticality part and assistive, so that especially in your initial use cases, you have a human in the loop looking at how the AI is performing, and slowly you will build confidence wherein you'll start delegating more and more to the AI, right? So that would be my recommendation. That's how we started out.
All right. Let's just get a bit technical for a while. Walk us through how a rollout looks like. Let's say from a chatbot to voice. How do you start and how do you get the first version out? How does it look like?
Right. So when we are talking about internal team and boosting their efficiency, it is very important to have the AI built into the workflow and not as add-on thing which could actually bring down your efficiency. So most of our teams internally are using, especially in operations, are using Frappe ERP systems wherein all their workflows are defined. So we found a way to uh, implement agents within those workflows, wherein an agent is always beside you while you are doing your work, and whatever critical processes a particular individual needs to take care of, the agent would be well versed in the SOPs of those processes and would have access to the data that the human counterpart would. So uh, let's take an example of transaction alert monitoring. So we have a team that looks at transactions that are highlighted as high risk potentially. And this person would need to check 20 things, right? So instead, now the agent does most of it and comes back with the finding where now the human needs to validate those findings and then proceed as suggested. In about 5 to 10% of the cases, the suggestions are not grounded in actual truth, but we have given tools to the human counterpart within the workflow to validate those uh, findings and take the suggested disposition or maybe override it. And whenever the human overrides, we get a feedback at, these are the failure modes where the agent is not performing as necessary, and then we fix that, right? So that is for the internal. Now we are venturing into exposing agents to the end customer as well, and that to over voice. So it is a new domain for us. You guys have been doing it for long. So we look forward to learning from you on that front. The way that we have de-risked this one is we have chosen a use case where even if a few percent of the cases the experience breaks, it should not lead to disengagement from the customer. So that that area lies within the collections use case wherein the customer has already gone past the point where they would be engaging with you meaningfully in the business, but you would still want to reach out to the customer to help them close their account. So in those cases, even if your experience breaks a few times, it does not, take the customer away from you. So once we build more trust in the system through these use cases, we'll be expanding into more use cases like portfolio management, customer experience, etc.
Makes sense. Because now it's not just about constantly getting new leads, it's also a lot about retaining the existing ones, which is a major challenge for a lot of B2C enterprises. Uh, Usman, I'm sure there are a lot of folks who are still a little unsure on applying AI into their core workflows. So, how do you de-risk that first launch from your own perspective?
Right. That's a very good question. So, what I would suggest is getting started with some use cases as early as you can so that you get to know the systems a bit better and build a confidence in them. There again, starting with low criticality suggestive use cases. One of the biggest challenges that you can find in actually doing that, apart from identifying the use case, building prototype, and testing it with users, when you actually go ahead and start to build them, there a big friction point could be the technology stack that you'll be using to actually build them, the frameworks that you'll be in, which was a big decision point for us as well early on in our journey. But there, what we finally figured was, instead of putting a lot of efforts into onboarding some technology stack like LangChain or True AI, what we figured was, if we can find a way to have the system running with minimal efforts, even if it is not going to scale, that would get us started and get the learnings going on so that we know where or we can implement it and where the actual value is, right? So in that scenario, a very good approach could be partnering with a vendor like yourself to actually see the true value in your use case without having the friction of getting started. And once that is established, then you can explore, how to scale it, right?
Perfect. So, Usman, I've heard that you mentioned in-app help as a key theme. Now, my understanding of in-app is that, like we have these chatbots which help you with all the basic queries, and then there's a human agent who you can contact. But the in-app help comes somewhere in between. Um, Now, we as users are becoming, we want more convenient solutions day by day. We don't want to type in everything. We just want maybe just give it a voice command and the whole function is carried out for you. So, how do you see this in-app theme setting up, and what does it mean beyond just the traditional support?
Certainly, I mean, that is going to be the next frontier. Industry moved from brick and mortar to web and then to apps. And we believe that conversational experiences are the next frontier. That is certainly where the customer behavior is also, tilting towards. If you just look at what OpenAI is doing in their hardware side of business, they are putting a lot of efforts in actually building that hardware, which would primarily be conversational driven. And similar to what Meta is doing with their sunglasses, which is just telling you that the customer behavior is already being shifted in a big way. And in near future, probably that is how your apps would be, or maybe there wouldn't be any apps anymore, and it would just be conversational agents that would carry out your business with your customers. Uh, so even as a business, you would want to give that personalized experience to the end customer, right? If you were not limited by your manual bandwidth, you would probably want there to be a concierge probably with each of your customer that understand their contextual needs and is there to help them carry out their actions and maybe pitch what you as a business think is best for the customers in real time, right? So now that real time concierge kind of an entity is possible with LLMs and the way that voice AI is shaping up. So that is no more a distant future. It could be built today.
So, like you just mentioned, tomorrow there won't be any apps as such, there will be agents. You think how long will it take for this reality to come into picture that, we'll be just guiding agents to carry out the whole thing for us and
I mean,
we won't.
it's anybody's guess. If you look at Google, you have a query, you go to Google, ask questions. Earlier, it used to redirect you to the websites. Right? But now it just serves you the information and you don't need to go to the end website. And the traffic to end website is going down, right? And the way that OpenAI is also doing commerce within their chat app, ChatGPT,
Exactly.
kind of that, right? So maybe your services would be exposed to end customers through these agents in future. So that's
In fact,
certainly a possibility.
a very personal use case would be how I use ChatGPT now. I don't even type. I just use the voice feature. It's the reality, and everybody is doing it now. So I mean, I see all of these changes where just voice would be used to carry out functions very soon.
That was how we are naturally wired to communicate, honestly.
Absolutely.
And now computers can do that too.
Oh, yeah. You're trying to get there. Awesome. So, Usman, I want to ask something on the metrics POV. When you say you've implemented AI into a workflow that is for the customer, how would you say that it's working? Whether you see any faster resolution, fewer support tickets, lower CAC, how do you derive value both from a customer facing point of view and from an internal team usage?
Sure, sure. So let me just take the example of two implementations that I talked about earlier. The first being the internal assistive agent for transaction alert monitoring state. So there we have seen that earlier when the agent had to do everything manually, check 20 things themselves on various places, refer data, and then come to a conclusion, it used to take them about 12 minutes to resolve each ticket, right? Each case. Now, when the agent is able to pinpoint on where the attention needs to be, given, and so that saves a lot of time for the agent, and now they are able to close the ticket on an average uh, 5 minutes, around 5 minutes. So from 12 minutes to 5 minutes, that's more than 50% difference. So now even the team subjectively is doing much better and feeling much more accomplished in their work because they don't need to uh, you know put a lot of efforts into the mundane tasks. They can actually focus more on solving complex problems. So that is on the internal efficiency side of things. When talking about customer exposure, so there as well, let's say even if we talk about the collections use case, our manual bandwidth is limited, right? So we would want to focus that on high priority cases where the amount is bigger and the likelihood of repayment is higher and all that. So there we would have some underserved cohorts which were not getting prioritized for human bandwidth. They can now be reached out at scale by our agents uh, who can engage with the customers, provide them resolution, and probably, if not anything else, get them prioritized. The 10% of that cohort, which actually should be prioritized, would now be prioritized because the agents at scale bring in that information that these customers are contactable and they are ready to come on the negotiation table. So the scale play clearly outshines there.
Got it. Got it. Perfect. Um. So from a customer POV, it's definitely more than just a support layer, right? Um. At what point does it feel like the AI agent has become a part of the core product?
So I believe that happens as soon as your agent is able to provide value to the end customer and also help further your business, right? So as soon as that happens, it's a part of your core product, and I don't think it's a question of when it becomes a part of your core product because that should happen really early on. It is
Mhm.
about how you can expand it to be a greater part of your whole experience, right? So once you have confidence with a few implementations, you would have the learnings to extend it further and beyond, right?
Makes sense. Also, just one question. So, um, I mean, a lot of PMs have still not fully used AI. But what are the expectations that they come with? Uh, AI might be, it's not a new concept anymore, but it might be a relative new concept for some PMs. So what expectations should they come with? And if you have seen any PM come up with maybe some misunderstandings that you would want to talk about. So please.
Yeah, from the outside, when you're not actually building, one major misconception is that you can just put AI into any flow and it will solve everything. Right. So that's not how it works. At least that's not how it works currently. Once AGI is around, probably it will build the product and run it by itself. But we are long way from there. So for now, you as a product manager still needs to understand the use case really deeply, still need to understand your user really well and build journeys around that. Uh, just think of it this way, that AI is just like uh, an entity that is similar to a human, which you still need to train well and inform about the context in which it is playing. And you need to know what value you want to drive out of that experience. Right. So a lot of heavy lifting is still on your plate, but you can deploy it at scale. Right. So there is a whole lot about observability evaluations that comes into place to actually make it reliable and useful. So yeah, those practical understandings need to be there.
Right. I've also seen that when, let's say, you as a product person, you are explaining the use case to certain clients, the expectations also need to be clearly explained to them, because even they think that because you're using AI, a lot of things are achievable. But I think even on that front, to give them full value of what they pay for or what they expect, these small places that you have to clearly explain what the capabilities are, what exactly it is capable of doing, so that they can measure the returns. I think that's also very important, and I see a lot of problems on that front as well. Have you faced any such issue?
Yeah, yeah, certainly. Just talking about our collections use case, initial response of somebody who is not deep into it is that if you are employing AI who is calling the end customer, they should be able to drive harder negotiations with the end customer to get more money back. I mean, that's just not where we are today. If a person cannot convince the customer to pay up more, the AI assistant, obviously is not going to be there. But what it can do is probably be 50% there for 1,000x more people, right? You don't
Exactly.
as much bandwidth to reach out to everybody, right?
Ex-
For example, in your case, if a person drops from their onboarding journey, you can't always call everybody up, and if they are not available, reschedule it for a specified time always, right? If you are using people to do that. But AI can do that to a really good extent. That is where the actual value lies.
like how you just explained, I just figured out something. uh Implementing AI is for the scale. It's an AI agent does not become more human. It just tries to be what a human is and perform that activity at scale, which means reduction of the cost which is spent on a human. At the same cost, you can probably deploy the AI agent at scale. That is what the actual use case is. And I think that's what a lot of people get wrong.
Right. And there is still a lot of work left for humans wherein they would spend less of time in these repetitive mundane tasks and can focus more on actual complex scenarios, right? So
Absolutely.
that's why human in the loop is still as necessary. But for your scale deployments, a majority of cases lie in that domain which AI can pretty well execute.
Awesome. Like exactly on point. So, Usman, if let's say if you have to tell somebody who is starting out with their AI journey, implementing into a product, and if they're unsure where to begin, are there any traps that you would want them to avoid? Anything to keep in mind while starting out?
Sure, I mean, you should certainly not directly, go for the home run and try to hit it big. uh, the correct way is to identify use cases that would be small enough to implement but still would have meaningful returns, because AI as of today has a considerable cost angle attached to it, right? So those need to be justified. So once you have started using it in such a use case where you're seeing the value and you have built it in a way that it is not going to affect you negatively in a big way. So you already are on your paths to, scaling it up.
Awesome. All right. So that was it, Usman. I think I'm done with the question. But thank you so much for coming today and giving us your time and giving insights on how AI should actually look like and debunking some very common myths. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.